an interview about security, privacy, and lack of infrastructure, the challenges facing the Arab countries to achieve full inclusion. Mr. David Garibaldi, Head of GRC Information Security, Swiss Cybercom, and Dr. Ali Aoudi, Director of Research Department, Union of Arab Banks.
So, thank you very much, David, for being here.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. I know you're tired end of the day. However, we want to benefit from your expertise, your experience, your knowledge.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, do you think after the pandemic, we are experiencing a new kind of risk related to financial institutions?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, let me say thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here with you. Of course, we are experiencing new type of risk. First of all, from a financial point of view, but first of all, from a social point of view. Financial inclusion and social inclusion changed after pandemic, and it's a little bit harder to try to solve these issues. I think that, first of all, we must concentrate our efforts in three types of three layers, three different layers. The first things that I wish to do is that we cannot control all that we don't know. So this was happened after the pandemic. The second is that we cannot control all risk. We must choose what risk. And a lot of new risk, maybe that someone is not... Yes, we have to deal, we have to manage, we have to mitigate them, but the most important thing is that we must try to create a new or better risk culture. For example, starting from the schools. I don't know here, because it's my first time that I come here in Abu Dhabi, but for example, all over Europe, it's very difficult to find schools that teach risk governance or risk management to children. This is very important, because in the next generation will face a lot of risk, a lot of crises. We knew COVID-19 as a crisis, but nowadays we are experiencing polycrisis. So climate change, just after the pandemic, there is a war somewhere in Europe. So there are a lot of crises that generate new risk as the pandemic generate. And it is not only a question of financial risk, but also social risk. And it does not depend from the countries. It's not a problem from Arab countries or European countries. It's a social problem. And we must try to solve this new risk, in my humble opinion, for example, starting from the school.
Well, in fact, the pandemic actually regarding the financial inclusion, I think, okay, it represented, or it posed a risk for finance and for the economy as a whole, but actually it resulted somehow in boosting financial inclusion, because banks started transforming actually their operations to become more digital, which actually allowed them to extend the services to more people.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people that are not prepared. For example, older people.
That's
my mother, she is 85 years old. She doesn't know how to use a smartphone. She has an old smartphone. It has not a touch screen. And that was a problem. And I think there are a lot of people, of course in some countries, but it's also a question of age, who are not prepared to face new risk.
True. Okay, my second question is, let's say it's extension for the first question. How do you think we should transform risks into privacy and security, related to privacy and security into opportunities. So how to transform risks and threats into opportunities.
I work in the information security field and the cybersecurity field. I started to work for a multinational company, organization. For example, I worked 5 years for the Italian Banking Association, working on network infrastructure and security and securizing their communication. And I think that my job is to transform issues or problems in opportunities from a technical point of view or from a technological point of view. I think that we should try to solve or to transform those new kinds of risks. We must work on better. We must think about 3 words, 3 simple words. The first one is resilience. The second one is trust. And last but not least, the third one is difference. With pandemic, with COVID-19, we started to know what is resilience also in our personal lives, and not only from an organizational point of view. And we learned how to be more resilient. I think that in the next few years we will be much more resilient as we are now, as like people and like organization or institution or private companies. And this is very important for me. The second is trust. As in the market, customer trust in companies, trust in bank, trust in financial institution, we must trust to each other. This is an important issue that we try to focus on if we want to solve something. And the third one is difference. We think, almost time, we think that the difference is an issue. I think that difference is an opportunity, because in those times, in these times, if we consider difference like an opportunity, we can see more things. It's a question of culture. It's a question of different kind of ethics. There is not only one ethics all over the world. So if we can transform what the majority of people that I know consider an issue, so the difference between me and you, and transform it into an opportunity, we can see much more things, and we can solve much more problems together.
Actually, by default, risks and the crises emerge always, whether, I don't know, economic, financial, health, political, and so on. So we should be always ready to deal with these crises, risks, and transform them into opportunities from different perspectives, from different point of view. So maybe sooner or later there will be another risk, there will be another shock, there will be another crisis.
Or maybe overlapping of crisis situation or shocking situation.
Or extended. So sometimes the crisis itself, or the problem itself, gets, or let's say extends for a longer period, and we should be always ready for this.
You know, during my job, I say that every organization has three different kinds of lives. The one before, the one during, and the one after a cybersecurity incident. It's quite like our lives. We had a life before pandemic, where we had a life during pandemic.
Exactly.
And now our lives is totally different from the previous one, because a lot of processes changed, a lot of processes were irreversible.
We adopted.
We adapted. We adapted. We learned to be more resilient. But I think that we can share our differences. We can share our different opinions, our different culture, and put it together. We will be much more able to solve the next future risk. But I think that they should be more complex.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Although it's a short intervention, but very insightful, very informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Thank you.